Shalom, everyone. It's time for ancient Jewish wisdom for a modern world that will change your thinking and change your life. Welcome to the Dust of the Rabbi podcast with Rabbi Brian Baruch Bileci.
Shalom, everyone. This is Rabbi Brian, and I'm so glad you joined us for another episode of the Dust of the Rabbi podcast. We are still in season 4. I'm adding an extra bonus episode, a part 2 of what we looked at last time we were together in episode 12. And today is episode 13, a part 2 of the journey of healing. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the healing process, some verses that we can glean from, and also I can share even more about my wife's journey of healing and what I've learned through this journey, because she's not the only one getting healed since her breast cancer surgery about 6 weeks ago, but I am also on that journey of healing with her. I'm not only healing from all of the things I've been doing lately, from all the work I'm doing, because man, it's a lot of schlepping around from here to there. I told her a long time ago, I said, I'm ready to be your Hebrew slave. Just let me know what you need. And she let me know all the things she was doing that I needed to start doing. And it's hard when you don't have a partner doing it with you because she can't lift. She can't do a lot of things since her surgery. But I tell her all the time, I might be your Hebrew slave, but trust me, it's a labor of love. So I'm glad you joined us today. Hope you're listening on your favorite platform for your podcast or you're watching on YouTube. And make sure you subscribe and like and share all these wonderful episodes. And make sure that you are downloading ancient Jewish wisdom with us as we continue on the journey of healing. All right, you ready? Last time we were together, we talked about the 4 stages of healing. What are they? It was the hemostasis, where we stop the bleeding, where the blood clots and coagulates. Then there was inflammation, where there's fluid rushing in to really cleanse the wound and to stop the infection. And then there's the proliferation, where there is new tissue being developed to fill in those certain areas in the wound that need to be filled up. And then we finally have the remodeling stage or maturation, where there's a strengthening of the tissue so that we can have more collagen, more elasticity, so that person that has been injured, that is now healed, can get back to some sense of normalcy, so they can get back to movement and get back to doing the things they're supposed to do. And I believe it's the same way we get healed emotionally and mentally and spiritually. It gets us back to doing what God has called us to do. So if you let me be your rabbi today, I want to continue the journey of healing, and hopefully you've been able to identify what stage of healing you're in. Maybe you need emotional healing, and you have to be aware of the areas of your life you've been hurt, you've been traumatized, maybe even where you've been triggered. Some of you might not realize you have unhealed hurts, you have unmet needs, and you have unresolved issues. Yeah, those are the 3 areas we need to look at. Do we have unhealed hurts? Do we have unmet needs? And do we have unresolved issues in our life? You know, you can't really get rid of those issues without first confronting them. It's like David killing a Goliath that he's not willing to confront. He has to confront it. And when Yeshua the Messiah, when he stepped into his office as a rabbi for 3.5 years, he knew that his Talmidim, or his disciples, were going to need to be healed from the things that had wounded them from the past, even their confidence level of feeling like they could walk in the footsteps of the Messiah, get dusty from the dust of his feet, drinking his words with thirst. They questioned, especially the fishermen, questioned, can I really be a fisher of men? Because fishing for fish is one thing, fishing for people is another. Many times we have the disqualification in our heart and mind from past wounds. Think about Matthew, the tax collector. He didn't become a rabbi, but he became a tax collector. He was working for the rich and taking from the poor in a reverse Robin Hood kind of way. You know, usually Robin Hood, you see him taking from the rich and giving to the poor. Here you've got people that are poor in Israel, Jews that are giving taxes to the Roman Empire, and they needed people like Matthew, also called Levi, to be a tax collector. A whole Gospel of Matthew is written by a guy who records that sinners and tax collectors were in the same category when it came to viewing them as nothing but pagans that didn't know the God of Israel. And so that was a great opportunity for Matthew to leave his past behind and follow the Master who is saying, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." Or in the case of Matthew, he just said, "Follow me," and Matthew followed. He dropped everything. He left his tax collecting business to then be a spiritual accountant for the Messiah, Yeshua. So we're thankful today that we have this prayer that we prayed last week, Rafa'enu Adonai v'nei Rafeh, which says, "Heal us, O Lord, and we shall be healed. Hoshi'enu v'nivashea." Save us, O Lord, and we shall be saved. You know, salvation is so important. We want to be saved from our sins. We want to be forgiven from our iniquities, but we also want to be healed from all our diseases. And I love the fact that we can call God our healer. He is a faithful healer. And this is where we learn to trust the God who gives us healing, because healing is something that's promised in the Word of God. Do you know when it comes to emotional healing? Psalm 147:3 says, "He heals the brokenhearted, and He binds up their wounds." So just like a physician would bind up the wound of someone who was physically injured, our God, the great physician, will bind up our emotional and mental wounds that affect us spiritually, just like wounds that affect us physically. When you think about Jeremiah 17:14, we just prayed a prayer from the Siddur from this very verse. "Heal me, O Lord, and we shall be healed. Save me, and we shall be saved." Just like God can save a soul, God can heal a body. And if He can heal a body, He can also heal the soul. He can heal the heart. He can heal the brokenhearted. And when you realize that healing is a part of the package, Isaiah 53:5 says, "By His stripes we are healed," talking about a suffering servant that would come, an anointed one. They call Him Mashiach ben Yosef, the Messiah, the suffering one like Joseph, the son of Joseph. And when you think about how Joseph suffered at the hand of his brothers, you know it's a type and shadow for Yeshua the Messiah, for Jesus, who was also one who suffered at the hands of some of his brothers who didn't believe in Him, until many did believe and trust Him as a healer, one that could carry sicknesses and diseases. He even carried it on the cross. And that's what Peter said in 1 Peter 2:24, "By His stripes we were healed." So Isaiah was prophesying and declaring, by His stripes you are healed. And then for his generation, generations to come, they would then be able to look back and say, one day, by His stripes we were healed. And that's what Peter did for us in 1 Peter 2:24. Isaiah was basing his prophecy on Exodus 15:26, where God told Israel, who put their faith in Him as their God, as well as in His prophet and servant Moses, He says, "I am your healer." And when you think about God as a healer, you think about the fact that God never created you to be broken. God never created you to stay in a state of suffering. God never created you to live beneath your privileges and to settle for less than what He has provided for you in your life, with the purpose He's given you and the plans He has for you. The reason we know it is because even our physical body, in that first stage of hemostasis, creates blood clotting to stop the bleeding. Why? Because if it doesn't have that first stage of hemostasis, every single one of us that are injured and are shedding blood, we will bleed out and die. Your body wants to save your life, just like God wants to save your life. If your physical body has this wisdom from God and this DNA structure to be able to know to coagulate that blood and to make sure that there is a proper hemostasis in the system so that you don't bleed out, how much more can we stop the bleeding internally today from our souls bleeding out in pain? Maybe even someone who's suffering with a problem of talking about other people and their pain, because it's easier to talk about their pain than face your own. We call it gossip, or in Hebrew, lashon hara, the evil tongue. Lashon hara is a very destructive tool or weapon that damages or hurts or wounds the soul of another human being. It wounds the heart of a person to know someone is gossiping about you. So what is that process of healing for you? You see, for me, I've been on a journey of healing with my wife because my wife, as I shared last episode, she's been about 6, going on 7 weeks of healing since her surgery, battling breast cancer with a double mastectomy because even though it was stage 0 of ductal carcinoma, her sister had gone through stage 3, I believe at least, and has been on a journey, still going through the final stages of healing and surgeries since her journey last year. And my wife said, you know what, let's not be foolish about this, let's be safe about this. And if you feel, doctor, we should remove them, let's remove them. That's exactly what she did. Because even though we don't have anyone else in the family in previous generations that had breast cancer, they just wanted to make sure with 2 sisters experiencing something similar, maybe different stages, it's better to be safe than sorry. And I think it's very smart to be preventative when it comes to things, whether it's preventative medicine, whether it's nutritional medicine, if you will, by eating the right foods and taking care of your body and de-stressing and having exercise and a healthy meal plan be a part of your daily life. You know, you need to make sure that you're getting the rest you need and really make sure that you're on a journey of healing, not just because you need to be healed because your doctor said you're sick, but how do you stay on a journey of healing to stay well, to stay healthy, to stay whole? I found that during this time where I've become the Uber driver and the Uber Eats and the person going to the grocery store 3-4 times a day to possibly 2 to 3 or even 4 different stores. I know that picking up my daughter from school after I've dropped her off that morning is a priority for me because my wife can't really balance out the duties of what we would normally do together because she can't lift and can't drive right now. So I have to make sure I'm doing all the things that I would normally do, plus what she would do, and then manage everybody's meal plan, if you will, because everybody in our household, whether it's my sisters that come into our family by way of my mother-in-law coming like 12 years ago. Sadly enough, she passed in 2021. That was something that was a journey for me because I've always said, honey, when I married you, I married your whole family. I didn't know that one day that would mean I would take on responsibilities that only God could give me the strength to do. And I've enjoyed every minute of it because my wife's family is my family because I grew up as an only child. And so I've always treated my friends like brothers and sisters, and I've treated my wife's family as if they are my physical blood DNA brothers and sisters. I love them immensely, and I'm so grateful to have the privilege to do what I do. That's why I call it a labor of love. But what have I learned during this process? What have I learned through this journey of healing from my wife, from me, my daughter, my wife's sisters that live with us, my wife's sister who doesn't live with us presently but lives in town, or my sister-in-law on Long Island, or any of my brothers that have gone through stages or phases of needing healing in their life? I've learned how important family is. I've learned how important family priorities are. And I've learned that also taking care of me is very important if I'm going to take care of them. In other words, taking on more is not about wearing yourself out, because we learned in the last episode the word for sick one, cholim, sick people, or hospital, beit cholim, comes from a root that means to be worn out, to be tired, to be weary, to be sick, to be infirmed. And when you feel worn out, your immune system drops and is low, and you can't fight off disease. So how can I take care of everyone else if I haven't taken care of myself? I have to remember that God has a process of healing for each and every one of us. And I really believe that you have to be on a journey of healing to take care of your soul's sicknesses and diseases. What does that mean? Before your body has a manifestation of sickness, cancer, diabetes, and other things, there is already a buildup of stress and tension and worry and fear and doubt and instability in our emotions and our mental state and mental health that usually is a precursor to the physical manifestation of disease. I'm not saying it's all in your head. Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying it's all psychosomatic, but I will say that God created us spirit, soul, and body. And when we understand that spirit of a person, the ruach, that ruchi, right? My spirit. Ruach is coming from the word to breathe, just like soul, nefesh, and neshama comes from the idea of breath or wind or breathing. That's a natural process that needs to keep flowing. So your spirit and your soul needs a fresh breath, fresh wind, a new start. It needs to flow. It needs to not be stagnant. Like living water that needs to keep flowing to stay alive, we need to not have stagnant waters because those are disease-infected waters. So what is your soul experiencing? Is there a stagnation? Is there a paralyzation? Are you fearful? Are you doubtful? Do you believe God is your healer? Do you believe that He can heal you and will heal you? Let Him start with your heart, and then let Him move on to your soul, your mind, your emotions, and your will. So when I took on this job to be kind of house manager and in charge when it comes to my wife's healing journey, I decided to work from home. Many of you know that I'm a Messianic rabbi and an executive pastor. Destiny Church is the home base for me running 3 campuses when it comes to the spiritual growth and curriculum and teaching of those campuses under my friend Pastor Obed, aka Bishop Obed Martinez. And I'm so grateful for him and his wife, Pastor Lisette Martinez. I'm so grateful for their friendship. If it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't be in full-time ministry as I am today in this capacity. I especially wouldn't be a rabbi if it wasn't for my brother from another mother meeting the rabbi who trained me, Dr. Rabbi Alon Barak, who's now in Hadnes, Israel. And we're so grateful to see this journey for my life take place. What I learned at 11, 12, and 13 when it came to Hebrew, and my lifelong love for all things Jewish and studying Hebrew and studying the older and newer testaments to be able to put the pieces together and share with friends and small groups and Bible studies at my house and preaching any place there was a platform for me to preach. And I like to teach sometimes. All of that was a part of a process of me becoming who I am today. I am Brian Bileci, and I come from an Italian Sicilian background, especially from the Jewish quarters of Sicily, Palermo and Trapani, our family comes from. And by way of New Orleans and Mobile, Alabama, my parents came through, and I was born in California. But that journey is more than that, because I've taken on the role of a shepherd over sheep and a rabbi or teacher over disciples. And I've got to make sure I'm operating at my best. I can't be sick. I can't be in worry. I can't be in doubt. I can't be stressed out and manage what I have to manage. So I remember the whoosha moment when I just realized, okay, Lord, you must trust me to take this on. My wife said when she took care of her mom for 10 years in our home with a start of dementia that moved into full-blown Alzheimer's, something that her mother passed away with, my wife's grandmother. It was one of those things that was passing down in the family, and it was like, okay, let's do everything we can to stop this curse of this sickness called Alzheimer's, because, it's a really prevalent thing these days. The multitasking, the not taking care of yourself, the bad nutrition, the stress, the worry, the constantly doing multiple things for everybody else, so that when helping them is hurting you. It's very important that we take time to slow down and say, how do we want our life to be? What do we want our life to be like? What do you envision for your future? What has God revealed to you about what He's called you to do? I learned that through this process, that if I was going to take this role on, and of course I already have, it's almost 7 weeks now since her surgery, when I think about how powerful that is, to say yes to a new season, a new assignment, I realized that I was going to learn things about myself I didn't know that I could do. For instance, in this process, I've really pulled out all the cooking supplies. I've really pulled out all the stops when it comes to learning about certain gourmet foods I've always wanted to cook, things I wanted to do. I took it as an opportunity to get in the kitchen and experiment a little bit. When it came to Mexican food, I'm saying bye to store-bought tortillas. I made homemade corn and flour tortillas. I really went out of my way to make things that might be even out of my cultural background, but I've learned how to really dive in and realize that anything that I want to do in life, there's wisdom out there to learn how to do it. And if I just plan and get prepared and get skilled, I can do anything that's available for me to do as long as it doesn't take me into an area where I'm so stressed out that I can't do it, or I feel overwhelmed that I'm not confident in it. I have to develop that God confidence to know if God created me, I can do all things through Him. I can do all things through the Messiah who strengthens me. And so I have learned how to do a few things. And it's like, I always knew how to cook. I mean, I'm a foodie. I love food. So I love to cook. But man, with YouTube videos and Google, man, you can learn how to do anything. If you want to be a gourmet chef, I'm sure there's ways to learn how to do gourmet food. Now, officially, you want to be a gourmet chef, you got to get some official training. But if you want to start out learning how to cook gourmet foods or healthier foods, why can't you? I mean, I even make my own mayo. I mean, I make my own salad dressings. I don't use all the inflammatory oils that we used to ingest or use from our cupboards. I got rid of all that stuff. I've gotten rid of all the plastics, really trying to get rid of the heavy metals in my life. I want to make sure my wife is not ingesting these things, or even my daughter, because this is going on to the next generation. And I've learned that to be healthy, spirit, soul, and body, you've got to make some changes. And so, since I'm in the driver's seat and my wife is in her resting bed most of the day when she's especially, having to take medication for pain, I can bring her her meals. I can bring them to order when it comes to like special order. Like if she wants it a certain way, okay, if she wants her eggs sunny side up today or she wants it boiled or scrambled, guess what? That's great. I can do that. Hey, I've really enjoyed in the season my Ezekiel bread. I toast it nice and crispy in the toaster oven and drizzle some nice good quality EVOO, extra virgin olive oil on it, a little bit of sea salt there, maybe some Celtic salt, good for hydration. And I've really just stepped out of the norm of just rushing all the time. Drinking Starbucks coffee and kind of let go of all that and just make my coffee at home and make my own creamers and make my own stuff. I mean, there's nothing I can't do if I'm just willing to do it. And so on a journey of healing, you're going to discover some things about you. You want a new you? You've got to be like Abram, who became Abraham. Avram to Avraham. God said in Genesis 12, you're going to go to a place where I'm going to make your name great. I'm going to show you a place that's going to be a nation that you're going to become, and people are going to bless you and be blessed. And if they don't, they're going to be cursed because they disregard you or curse you. And so this place that God was taking him to is not just a place of a location where he could grow his family and become a nation, the land we call Israel. Yes, that's included in the package. But it's a place of growth for him. Abraham's name not only physically grew by adding a certain Hebrew letter, the letter Hey, to his name, from Avram to Avraham, there was also an increase of who he was in the eyes of people. He became famous for his faith in God to build his family. He became famous for the legacy he left for all of us to walk into. Avraham Avinu, Abraham, our father of faith, he's the guy that set the tone because he believed God and it was accounted to him as righteousness. Genesis 15:6. I want you to acknowledge that God right now has a plan for your life, and if you listen, he's speaking to you. Go to the place where I'm going to make you great. Go to the place where I'm going to make you a nation of people. Go to the place where I'm going to build your family. Maybe he's going to build your business. Maybe he's going to build your influence. Go to that place. Are you willing to go to that place? Are you willing to be that person that steps out of the box and takes a step of faith? Not a quantum leap, but a step of faith in the right direction towards what God has called you to do, what you know your destiny is. I had to do that many years ago. And full circle, I feel like I'm doing it all over again. I'm learning to step out. And it's been a while since I was able to pick up this podcast because for those 6-7 weeks, I had no time for filming. I had no time for recording. I had to just tend to my wife. So I apologize for those that have been looking for this podcast to be inspired. It's taken weeks, but we're finally here now. And I'm thanking God that I'm on a journey of healing. I've discovered who I am and who I can be. I've discovered that I can do more. There's so much more I want to do. There's so much more you want to do. Are you willing to get on this journey and continue moving by faith towards a path of healing? Are you going to deal with those unhealed hurts, those unresolved issues, or those unmet needs? Are you going to face those fears like David faced Goliath? Are you going to go to the place where God's going to show you, like he did Abram, how he could become an Abraham, a father of many nations? There's so many people to disciple, and I have to fulfill the great commission of the Messiah. Make disciples of all nations. That's all nationalities. That's all people groups. Today, if you're listening, you're being discipled because I have to fulfill my call. And if you let me be your rabbi, and you learn to be a disciple, a talmid or a talmidah, as talmidim, talmidei Yeshua, disciples of Yeshua, you will walk in the footsteps of your Messiah. You will get dusty from the dust of your rabbi, and you will drink in those words with thirst, and you'll be able to go on this journey, not dehydrated, but ready to transform. I'm telling you, the healing is for you before it's for anybody else. So as you get healed, maybe you'll be like me. You're on a healing journey with someone else. My wife is the one I'm journeying with, but I'm also journeying for me. I'm journeying because I need this. I need to see my life differently. I need to do things differently, whether that's eating differently, sleeping differently, exercising differently, or just more often. I want to make sure that I stay on the journey of healing. I hope you do too. Love you. Can't wait to see you soon. We're going to a new season, season number 5, episode 1. I can't wait to jump into this journey with you. God bless you. Shalom. See you soon. Lehitrot.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, follow us for more episodes as you rate and review the podcast. Thank you for listening to the Dust of the Rabbi podcast with Rabbi Brian Baruch Bileci. Shalom. Lehitrot. See you next time.